All right? So, rise and fall, Harry Kipke. Let's talk about this man. He is former All-American player for Yost. He's hired in 1929. He's actually from Lansing, Michigan. He coaches at MSC, which is, at the time, and some would argue today, Nick Saban, a stepping stone school for bigger colleges, right? But he's there. We have a little turmoil coming out of the Yost tenure, and they say, hey, come back to Michigan. Yost is AD. He says, come back. He gets things turned around. Michigan wins 4 straight Big Ten titles and claims there is no tournament, there is no playoff, the 1932 and 1933 national championships, okay? He remains the only coach at Michigan, right, to win a national championship as a player and to coach a national championship team. Benny Oosterbaan did not do both. Jim Harbaugh did not do both, okay, as head coach. All right, so that brings us to 1934. Things are great. Things are rolling. They are having trouble getting people in the big house, but we're winning football. People are pretty happy. That brings us to this period. In 1934, Michigan goes 1-7. 1935, 4-4. 1-7 and again in 1936. 1937, 4-4. Lay that over. Let's just say that happens in the next 4 years here after a national championship. What happens to our coach? What? Gone. He is fired. He's fired. It's funny how we tend to rewrite these things. Resigned, gracefully decided to stop coaching. He was fired. He was fired. And a lot of people are upset because this was a very, very popular person. This was one of us. If you don't think it could have happened to Jim Harbaugh, he was this close to getting fired back in COVID. There's a lot of revisionist history about people's opinions of Jim Harbaugh, trust me. He was close. Ward stuck it. People criticize Ward Manuel. Ward Manuel was kind of like, look, I think I'm going to stick with you. Actually cut his contract, right? He had to make concessions. Jim Harbaugh did. Okay, so he's fired. The justification for firing Harry Kipke, the team sucked. I'm using my words. A payment scheme was going on with players. This is the Board of Regents, the board in control of athletics, reporting the Board of Regents. They exposed a payment scheme, so he was cheating. He had illegal summer practices. When you weren't supposed to practice football, it was exposed that Michigan was practicing. His friends, somebody or some people did not like the people he hung out with. These were all cited for reasons why he was fired. And this all went downhill in 1934. And we'll talk about that in a minute. All right. The payment scheme. The Chicago Alumni Club, the powerful group of Michigan alums, provided money to local businesses. Coaches told recruits, come to Michigan, we got money for you. We got a job for you, in other words. You're good. And they funded it. Visit your local company and get paid. Show up. Does this sound familiar to anybody? What does it sound like? Yeah. Kind of sounds like NIL. Yeah, this is kind of how collectives work. Change the names and the faces, but that's kind of how it works today, right? That's how boosters raise money. Okay, well, what's the problem with that? By the way, everyone was doing this, or a lot of people were doing this, change companies to churches, right? All that kind of stuff. But losing, a couple things happened. The promises were made, They were paying athletes, but they weren't getting the money from the Chicago alums. Why do you think the Chicago alums stopped paying the local companies? Anybody? They run out of money? No, they didn't. They had plenty of money. Any idea why a booster maybe would stop paying? Football team wasn't good. What am I getting for my investment? Michigan, people with Michigan money are pretty smart. What are we getting out of this? The football team. Do you think that's a problem for collectives, by the way? It could be. Yeah, they call it donor fatigue for a lot of reasons. We had donor fatigue in the 30s. Practices at Ford Motor Company, probably also illegal jobs, but players would go to Ford Motor Company during the summer, work as security, okay, and practice. Work out, that was illegal. I believe it's still illegal. Okay, his friends, this is odd. This is odd. We don't like your friends, man. What a strange comment. You don't like my friends? Well, it's one guy. It's one guy we really don't like. And it's this guy. Harry Bennett. He is Henry Ford's right-hand man, brother. And he is a bad mofo, okay? Can you take care of that, Harry? Henry Ford would tell this man, and problems went away. Problems. Labor problems, vendor problems, supplier problems, customer problems. Had practically a military institution of people that worked under him to handle problems. He's a bad dude. He's tough. He's an enforcer. From what I hear, Henry Ford found him in New York City and said, I want you to work for me, you badass. He wasn't all bad, as someone said, just 85% bad. So he had a little bit of a sweet side to him, if you got to know him. Does he look like mobsters as they're depicted today? Yeah. A lot of our depictions in the movies of gangsters and mobsters and henchmen, like Joe Pesci, right? The Wolf in whatever it's called, right? That's who he is. Yep, there he is. De Niro looks a lot like them. The Battle of the Overpass. Right now, there's a big strike going on. Does anyone know where that is? Don't know where the big strike is? Okay. You guys follow the news at all? There's a big group of people that are not working right now, and you might want to be aware of it. I'm not telling you to run and go buy toilet paper or anything yet, but what?
Like dock workers along the Atlantic coast.
Dock workers. Yeah. Hey, newsflash. Just about everything you guys buy gets shipped here. Okay? They're not unloading the all those things right now. All right? What about the robots? They don't have enough of them yet. They're on pause, okay? So it's a big deal. Well, most of my view growing up in the state of Michigan and talk about unions was through the lens of the unions that support the auto companies, the auto workers. It was a big deal. And they started to clash with Ford. Harry Bennett organized the Ford people, and there were fistfights, all this stuff. Movie's been made about it. You can check it out. He owns a house on Getty's Road. It's still there. Bennett's Castle. That's where he hangs out and probably has drinks and stuff with Kipke. That's how people know he's friends. It has tunnels underneath it. He has lions and tigers on the property. There's Kipke. People are known to go there and not return. Problems disappear. He's a bad dude. Harry Kipke, All-American, two-time national championship coach, national champ as a player. You got Bo Schembechler, who has Schembechler Hall and a statue, Benny Oosterbaan, the field house, Yost, now the ice arena, Fritz Chrysler, who we're about to talk about, the Chrysler Center, These are our iconic football men here at Michigan. Lloyd Carr now has the tunnel. Did you know that? The tunnel in the stadium is named after Lloyd Carr. Harry Kipke has a service drive around the stadium. I'm not suggesting that anything should happen. If you read the Willis Ward story, though, you might think maybe he deserves something better. Okay. But he has a service drive. Do you guys know Kipke Drive around? Yeah. That's what he got. Okay. The way it ended matters. The way it ended matters. Okay. In scandal, I'm buddies with this badass, and most of all, probably and sadly, winning and not winning in this case. Okay. He got a street sign. All right. Okay. So who's next? And I want you to understand this. The board in control and the regents have now moved against Yost. This was Yost's player. He supported them. And now they're saying the duty of choosing a new coach or determining who should be even interviewed, okay, should not be delegated to Mr. Yost if future strife and controversy is to be avoided. Publicly saying this. So this powerful man who built everything, they're now saying publicly, we got to keep it away from Yost. And they kind of know they have to do this publicly because Yost is so powerful. What else? Tonight, we should make this decision independently of Yost's nomination or suggestion. Yost had ideas, by the way. You guys met him. He had some ideas of who he wanted to be. It wasn't any of the people they really looked hard at. Okay? Especially this guy, Fritz Kreisler. Clean as a whistle. Before your time, Michigan basketball was facing a lot of problems. We brought in John Beeline, head of the rules committee, crystal clean, pristine record. We're bringing in a super clean guy because we need a change in what we're doing. Fritz Kreisler, straight-laced, by the rules guy, hired from Princeton, had just won a national championship there. Okay. Uh-oh. He's a protege. He played football for Stag. He's from Chicago. Do you think Yost, knowing what you know about the rivalry, would have picked a Chicago guy? He's from Chicago. He wins the championship. By the way, who gave him his nickname? Fritz Kreisler. Stag gave it to him as a joke. Fritz Kreisler is a famous violinist. Spelling is different. And Kreisler, this Kreisler was a little clumsy. And he kind of like made a metaphoric like reference to you're like a beautiful musician as a kind of ripping on him. But the name stuck. All right? Super clean. In the deal, he's offered power, the AD position. Not yet, but soon, okay? Real soon. How powerful is Joe Biden's administration right now, not getting into politics? How many major decisions are coming out of the Biden administration? Yeah, just relatively speaking. Yeah, there's no doubt. But we got an election coming up, guys. Okay, we don't know who the next... So when you're at the end of your tenure and everyone says, I'm done, people start focusing on who's next. So when you say, I'm going to be the athletic director in a few years, it signals that your power, the current guy's power, is fading and going to be over. All right? He brings the wing and helmet to Michigan. We'll talk a lot about that. From Princeton, we'll talk about. There's a lot of legends about what it is and what it isn't. Absolutely hired without Yost's approval. However, when Yost was beaten you'll see photos of them, and he's welcomed and all that, of course. Yost is a Michigan guy. All right? And this effectively ended Yost's power here at Michigan. All right? And thus, we transitioned into a new era of Michigan football. Once again, at the tail end, a relative disaster. Change was needed. And we entered Dooley's third era of Michigan football. The Chrysler era starts. And it's a huge change. The world is different. We're about to go into World War II. And we got a new guy at the top.